Ted Williams, The Biography of an American Hero. Leigh Montville, Doubleday, 2004. Many useful tips to get to know the story of Ted Williams, America's greatest baseball player. Learn about the baseball player's sporting career. Discover what goes on behind the scenes at major league games and within important teams. The author. Leigh Montville is a sports journalist who grew up reading the Boston Globe and Sports Illustrated. After a long career as a journalist, he decided to become a full-time author and wrote 2 best-selling biographies, At the Altar of Speed, The Fast Life and Tragic Death of Dale Earnhardt, and Ted Williams, The Biography of an American Hero. Ted Williams, a very special American hero. Ted Williams, born Theodore Samuel Williams, collected a series of nicknames during his life, such as The Kid, Teddy Ballgame, and The Splendid Splinter, to mention just a few, and these were a testimony to his unique and incredible talent. Born in 1918, Ted Williams is still considered one of the greatest hitters in baseball history. Even as a child, he showed a keen interest in baseball, and his flair for the game was plain to see from the very beginning. His father was a soldier, while his mother was an American of Mexican descent who was a member of the Salvation Army community and raised Williams according to her religious beliefs. He grew up in San Diego, where he joined his high school baseball team, and already back then he was the star player, even though he was considered to be a rather unusual boy. Williams rarely listened to what people said, and yet he was always full of questions. He told stories, jokes, and anecdotes with the sole purpose of being the center of attention. He was physically well built, almost 2 meters tall, and had a loud, imposing tone, so his voice was hard to ignore, as was the way he behaved around people. He was considered too direct and blunt, and his language was sometimes vulgar. On the one hand, Williams was artistic, bright, and incredibly gifted, but on the other hand, he often came off as overbearing and expected to get whatever he wanted. He had to be in control of every conversation and would adapt his stories to the person he was telling them to, so they always had different endings. Everything was a game to him, on and off the field. His outgoing personality also led him to take risks in his private life. He was married 4 times, but never really got along with his first 3 wives because of his egocentric need for freedom and inability to look beyond his own needs. He lived in a state of perpetual restlessness, which made him a formidable player on the field, but uncontrollable and unbearable in his private life. He married his first wife, Doris Sewell, in 1944, and they had a daughter together, but the marriage ended in divorce 10 years later in 1954. His second wife, Lee Howard, was a model and actress. The two married in 1961 and had 2 children, but their marriage ended in 1967. He then married his third wife, another model named Dolores Wettak, in 1968. After 2 children, they divorced in 1972. By the age of 55, Williams already had 3 unsuccessful marriages under his belt and 5 children by 3 different mothers. He fell in love once again, however, this time with Louise Kaufman. The couple married and stayed together for 20 years until Kaufman died in 1993. She found a way to be by his side while giving him the space he needed. She would take care of him and his needs, wash his clothes, make his meals, and prepare his drinks, and she made sure she was always there when he needed her. Louise never expected Williams to give her more than he was able to give, and this was the secret to their lasting marriage. His big break in baseball and long-standing association with the Red Sox. Ted Williams discovered his passion for baseball as a child. He joined his high school team at a very young age and made his mark, laying the foundations for what would become an impressive sports career. His big break came in 1939 at the age of 21, when he was signed to play baseball for the Red Sox, a major league team with a great reputation. He quickly showed everyone that he was up to the task, scoring several important wins and proving to be an outstanding hitter. He was happy being in the limelight and began to win game after game. Williams also inherited former champion Ben Chapman's number 9 jersey and set a record of 400 at-bats won in a single season. This was an all-time record number, which no other player had ever achieved in the history of baseball. Ted Williams remained loyal to the Red Sox throughout his baseball career. He took a 3-year hiatus from the game, during which he enlisted as a pilot to fight in World War II, but went straight back to training as soon as he returned from the war. Despite having sustained an injury to his arm, causing him to slightly lose his rhythm, and the team to lose a few games, Williams quickly returned to his previous record-breaking performance, proving what an exceptional player he was. His fame also led to exceptionally lucrative contracts, including a $70,000 deal that he signed in 1947, which confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt just how valuable he was. It was also an effective way of securing the trust of the Red Sox managers, who in just 2 years paid him a total of $100,000. Williams was well aware that he deserved every bit of his success because he knew that he was the greatest player around and led his team to victory in practically every single game. There was one incident, however, which almost forced Williams to give it all up, and that was when he broke his arm during a game in 1950. Despite his determination to continue playing baseball, it was just too painful, and he feared he had fallen too far behind in his training. This fear stayed with him, and for a long time he remained convinced that he would never fully recover. Despite the pain in his arm, however, he managed to rise to the challenge and soon went back to securing big wins. Ted Williams enlists to fight in World War II and the Korean War. In 1942, Ted Williams took a break from his sporting career in order to enlist with the United States Marine Corps. For 3 years, from 1943 to 1946, he was a fighter pilot for the US Army. He enlisted without even a second thought and was happy to do his part because he believed it was important for him to support his country. Once again, Williams wasted no time in making a name for himself, this time in the Army, and went on to receive a Naval Aviator badge for merit. Even during the war, he would occasionally play the odd game of baseball, but he did not sign up for the military bases team because he preferred to play for fun. In 1945, for example, as the war was coming to an end, Williams was in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, playing games with the Navy baseball team. Years later, between 1952 and 1953, he fought for his country once again, this time in the Korean War. Williams could have chosen to take his name off the list of inactive reserves immediately after the Second World War, but he chose not to, later saying that it didn't occur to him to do so. After a brief training period, Williams left to fight in the Korean War as a Marine Corps captain and earned several more badges of merit. Williams is considered a legend to this day because even after fighting in the war, he came back and showed everyone that he was still the best. After fighting in World War II and the Korean War, and after the injury to his left arm, some people thought that Williams would be relegated to being a former great of American baseball. No one could have imagined that not only would he return to the field, but he would also maintain the same level of incredible performances. While people did expect him to regain his physical fitness, they were astounded and highly impressed to see Williams once again in command of his absolute perfection on the field. Despite being over 40 years old, Ted Williams continued to earn the title of best hitter and consistently outshone fellow athletes who had been training continuously while he had been away at war. Like many great artists, Williams loved his job but hated everyone, including his fans. Like all great celebrities, Ted Williams had many fans who absolutely adored him, but in his case it cannot be said that he returned that affection. In 1960, at the age of 42, Williams decided it was time to take a step back from his baseball career and all the records that had defined an entire era. He retired as a player and took up coaching. Williams accomplished more in his career than most people could hope to achieve in their whole lifetime. He set and broke sporting records, and the public loved him fiercely. His success earned him 2 highly coveted awards: his 1966 induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Presidential Medal of Freedom presented to him in 1991 by George W. Bush. Quotes: "His voice was loud. His presence was overwhelming. He could do anything, everything. He was number 9. He was the kid, Teddy Ballgame, the splendid splinter. He hated to wear a tie. He was invincible." Ted Williams was a mythical figure, a creation of radio words and black and white newspaper pictures. He had the purity of Sir Lancelot, the strength of Paul Bunyan, the tenacity of, say, Mighty Mouse. Distance, to be sure, made heroes much more heroic than they ever can be today. Take-home message. Ted Williams was a formidable figure. He died in 2002, aged 83, and is widely considered the greatest hitter in American baseball history. He had a somewhat tricky character and was often overbearing, intrusive, and insolent, but he nevertheless inspired and moved countless people, whether they were sports fans or not. Ted Williams is a star that will never fade, and even after his death, he still receives nothing but praise for his astounding and unquestionable talent.